Wonder what someone would have to say about this camel. I'm not joking. I want to know.
Yeah. Welcome to Talk That Matters. Now, Katie Bowes, we started months and months ago having some conversations about things that we really love, but I realized we didn't even take the time to find out like who you are and what you're about. And so one of my favorite ways to get to know somebody right off the bat in a deep and meaningful kind of conversation involves these pictures. And so right off the bat, Katie, choose one of these pictures that maybe describes your life. Pick one or two pictures. Okay. If you're like, if I had to pick a picture to describe what my life is like right now, what's one that you would choose?
I think this one of this car. I don't know if can the camera see this?
Yeah, probably so.
I think most people be like, "Oh, this is a broken down car that it's not going anywhere." But honestly, I see it as like someone's probably fixing that car up.
Ah,
and
so
that's how I feel.
Do you feel like somebody's fixing you up? Do you feel?
Yeah, I'm getting ready. I'm getting ready to do something.
Okay.
Getting fixed up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That's what I think.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of hope and promise in that. It's like, okay, somebody's...
But it's all perspective. You can think,
right.
You might be a little broken down, but, you're just getting fixed up.
Yeah, I like it. Okay. So that kind of plays into another question, kind of similar to it. If you had to pick a picture to describe what you wish or you hope your life were like.
What I wish my life looks like right now.
Yeah, what's a picture you wish your life was like? And maybe you feel pretty optimistic. You're like, yeah, that's what it is. Or,
Probably, I like this one, these people running.
Here we go.
I feel like, I wish I was going a lot faster. I wish I was running as well as I wish I was. That's a long sentence, but yeah, that's what I wish. I was going faster, and I wish I was running better. But
do you have like specific areas of your life you wish were going faster?
Probably just knowing how to do things, like adult type thing. I know adulting is such a term,
but for real.
But how to do adult things, and people can't just tell you everything. You have to do things yourself. I know that, but I wish I could just do it faster.
You wish you could learn it and do it and have it.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel that way. I mean, every time I run up against something, like the first time I tried to get my car set up, like with the title and registration, and I thought, oh, this is a thing I don't know how to do. I wish I knew how to do it. What are some examples of things for you that?
Registering for classes at school, at a new school, it is the most frustrating thing I've been through in a long time.
Yeah, it feels stressful.
Yes, and also like with all this COVID stuff, it's a lot different. Classes, and so that has changed a lot of things too, and but it's good,
Yeah.
We're just getting fixed up.
So you would like for it to be moving on quicker and be wrapped up. That's interesting. In some ways, I'm the same. I don't always love the journey the way that I should, and I'm just like, I wish we were there and enjoying being there.
Yes. But, it looks like these people are enjoying running. I guess I should... Well, maybe this first woman is not, actually.
Yeah. There's one character that looks like they're about to die.
But she's running, and that's what's important.
She's running. Yeah. Okay, now this one is, you might say it's more of a spiritual question. What's a picture that you would choose to represent your idea or belief about God? Like a picture that maybe represents... something about God.
Okay. Maybe I don't know. I think it's just this one with these children. Okay. But they could just be people, but I think they're children. People. Anyway, children are people.
Children are people.
Revolutionary.
Hashtag. Yeah.
But I just feel like God is, found a lot in his church. You can know God and not go to church, but it's important to go to church.
Interesting.
And be with his people. I think that's something over the past few months, not going to the actual building with people that I've learned is it feels like, it's a lot different relationship with God for me to not be with God's people in person.
For sure. Yeah. Some of my favorite authors are Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and they met with a little group of friends for years. This is 50, 60 years ago. And one of them, I don't remember who it is, but let's just say that, let's say it's one of their friends died, and Tolkien says, I'll never know the rest of you as well, because when that person died, the things that he brought out in you. So not only have I lost my incredibly good friend, but I've also lost something in each of you. And
that is so
isn't
sweet
that
and
really
sad.
sweet? Yeah. But I think the same is true of the living God. Like, you know the Lord personally through seeking him and finding him in the scriptures and in creation and in the quiet, but also you see the Lord, as he's shown to you through other people. So I think it's incredibly powerful. That's a great insight, and it flies really counter to kind of the way our culture's been moving.
Oh yeah.
But I think you're not the only one who's felt that way. Who's felt like, hang on,
this doesn't feel right.
I can't
Definitely do not.
Yeah, I can't Zoom call or FaceTime in for everything.
Yep.
You
really can't.
You just really can't. And I think we're experiencing that. Whether or not it leads to wisdom, like whether we actually pursue one another and relationship and the Lord in that kind of way, I don't know. Okay, now this one's kind of a broad question. This one's about journey. So if you had a picture, if you chose a picture to kind of describe your spiritual journey up to this point, I think everybody is spiritual, even people that don't have the same kind of faith belief that I do. Most people would say, yeah, I'm more than just flesh and bone. So what's a picture that describes your spiritual journey?
My spiritual journey. That's kind of tough. But I like this picture, walking through the woods.
Okay.
I definitely feel like that feels like a nice walk in the woods to me. Not that every part of my spiritual journey has been pleasant, but I feel like, that's like hiking. It's not looking back.
Yeah.
It's like I just moving forward with God, and I've never really like questioned anything that he has brought me through or I've had to walk through. It's just like I just keep moving, keep looking forward, keep looking up. That's the thing that I struggled a lot when I was a kid, is looking up when I walked. Apparently that's a thing you have to do. I don't know.
So you would stare at your feet?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
And so, but when you're hiking, you have to look up like all the time, apparently. I didn't really know that until I was like in 5th grade, and a teacher said, stop looking down, you're going to trip and fall.
That's so weird, because I regularly tell my sons, watch the ground for
Are you
roots.
serious?
I very often tell them, like, hey, there's roots everywhere. Watch the ground or you'll trip and fall.
That's really different adults thing. I don't know how that all happened. But anyway, I just feel like, not looking down, not looking back, just following God, trusting in him no matter whatever stuff I see on the path.
Interesting. I think that there's a good chance that you will have some chapters moving forward that are not that way. This idea,
right.
So that's kind of the last question in this, just kind of fly over, get to know you type of deal. What is a picture that you think maybe represents what you hope your spiritual journey looks like in the future? And maybe in some ways it's the same. Maybe there's a different nuance. What would you say you're hoping for when it comes to kind of your growing and journeying as a
Christian?
Yeah, as a Christian.
I think this one with the little candles.
Right here?
I think it's very poignant for my chosen career, being like a light in the darkness, and maybe even this one little light that's far away from the other lights or something. I don't know, because it's hard to be a writer. That's what I want to be.
Yeah.
And be a light. I mean, and that's kind of cliche that I picked this one, but that's kind of how I feel. Going out to a dark culture.
Yeah.
To be a light for God in the ways I can.
That's really cool. Okay. Well, we will clear away the clutter, because Katie doesn't like clutter, and we'll get into a little bit more of what you see coming up in the next chapter.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so we had an amazing and engaging, imaginative, insightful conversation, but then lost the video on it. And so this is day 2, take 2, essentially following up on this idea of kind of the spiritual journey. You just finished high school, a year ago?
Yes.
Okay, so you're in this position, so many people I know are, where they either are looking forward to finishing high school or kind of thinking about what's happening next. So what did you do when you graduated from high school?
I started at Piedmont Community College. I had already taken a bunch of classes in high school, so I finished my associate's degree, And then this spring, or winter, I guess, I was applying for colleges, and I got into UNC Chapel Hill, and that's where I decided to go. That was a long process of doing a lot of that, so that took up a lot of time this past year.
Yeah.
And
Okay, so two things. One, right off the bat, why did you go to community college out of high school? Why did you take that route?
To save so much money.
Yeah.
My parents kind of like recommended it. They didn't say I had to do that, but I have to pay for college on my own. So they're like, this could be a good option. Sounded really good to me. So yeah, a lot for the money. I could live at home, just right here in our hometown. Just really simple option. I'm a homebody, so that was a good pull too. You could live at home.
Yeah, I'm a homebody as well. I think people kind of underestimate the financial commitment they're making. It's like, you know, I have been thinking for a long time about buying a house. Like, that's a deep financial commitment. Like, essentially 4 years, a typical 4-year school is literally the same type of financial commitment as buying a house. And so this idea of like, yeah, I think I'll probably do that. That seems like a good idea. You know, it's a big deal.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't remember the exact statistics. I should have looked this up. But essentially, you know, it's less than a tenth the cost.
Wow.
If you go to a community college. And so
that's crazy.
And then of course if you get to stay at home and, you know, saving all that kind of money. So that's kind of a big deal. So you're headed off to UNC Chapel Hill now.
Yes.
Why that school? What are you planning to study?
Journalism is what I'm planning to study, and it's the best journalism school in the country, like without a shadow of a doubt. That's not me being biased.
Right.
It really is. Like, they have awards and accolades and stuff like that, so you can
like
look it up.
The national championship of...
Yeah, it's called the Hearst Awards. We have 9 of those in the past, 10 years. So that
big deal.
Yeah. So that kind of pulled me. It's like, I'm going to be getting, like, a world-class, or, like, in the country...
Yeah.
Education. I mean, it's pretty cool to me.
So in this deal, in this major, studying journalism or kind of everything that goes with it, what about that really draws you in? Like, why are you interested in that type of major?
I think I really like telling stories, whether like it's at UNC, it's called Media and Journalism School.
Okay.
So whether it's like through pictures or whether it's through words, I just love telling people stories.
Yeah.
That's really important to me. I think that it's how we all want to know and be known, and how we can, be known is by knowing more about other people. You kind of understand more about other people's stories if you, about your own story, if you listen to other people's stories.
Okay. So there's this interplay between telling somebody's story and then kind of, there's this feedback where you actually know more about who you are.
Yes.
In sort of where you fit into this world and how you kind of bounce off of. It kind of reminds me, you were talking about this picture that had all these people sort of holding hands and jumping up in the air, and this idea of really knowing what God is like
through his people.
It's kind of like finding who you really are is one story in the midst of a lot of stories.
It's true.
And the funny thing is that's kind of counter to, I think a lot of people, or at least the way I often think, is that my story is the only story. Like
main character syndrome.
Yeah, or at least, like I'm the central character, certainly in my story, and everybody else is kind of the supporting cast.
Yeah.
And so, like, actively going to look and invest yourself into somebody else's story, I think is a deeply humble thing to do, and also I think it's probably really meaningful and enriching to draw out other people's stories. So up until this point, what are the things you've been doing that kind of are in keeping with that way of thinking?
I've been, I think a lot of my trying to find other people's stories is like doing ministry, and not just like my own personal ministry, but at an actual, like Life Matters. I think that's how I've kind of grown to love this, this, idea of finding other people's stories. And I don't say that as like some kind of ad for My Life Matters. Yeah. It's just such a big part of my life, and it's really, I think, played a part in how much I value other people and learning about other people as a way, to understand more about who I am and who God is, like, ultimately.
Yeah.
And so, that's about it. I don't do any like writing for our local paper or like PCC. I was homeschooled. My school didn't have a school paper or anything like that, or a yearbook, which would have been really cool. Actually, I should have worked on that.
You still have time.
Yeah, but yeah. So that's about it. Like I just have been in the midst of just like everyday life, gathering experience. I think that's really valuable for. Yeah. I think especially journalists to have experience in the real world before they just like hunker down and say they want to write about it for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and writing about something is, anybody can have an instant opinion.
Right.
But sort of taking the time to kind of discover different angles and hear different perspectives. I mean, right now we're living in this really volatile moment where there's huge sections of the population where people are saying we have not been heard. Our story. There's minority groups saying our story hasn't been heard. There's people saying we haven't been valued, and they're, at a broad level, I'm confident that's true because I certainly know it's true at a really individual level.
Yeah.
Like I know my story, but I'm really quick to sort of run past other people and not even listen. Like. What has shaped you? What has gotten you into this position? So I even think about as far as shaping influences, when you are trying to discern, like, what is newsworthy and what is true in the situation, and when you're trying to sort of glean those things, what are some of the things influencing you? Like when you're trying to get to the bottom of a story or really hear what's going on. Like, what are some of the questions that you ask, or what are some of the things that shape the way you go about finding out, getting to the bottom of the story? Yeah, I mean,
I think that I just don't ever pay attention to one news source because it's like that's just one side of the story, and actually, like another statistic that I actually don't even know if it's true or looked it up.
Oh boy!
But like all the statistics, but it's like 5 corporations own 90% of media, or at least the television media world.
Yeah.
And so it's really dangerous to like just watch the TV news and only watch that because you're only getting just their little perspective.
Yeah.
I just like get from a bunch of different sources and then ultimately like filter everything that they say and everything that I read and everything that I hear my friends say through what the Bible says. And I know that sounds kind of corny, honestly, but it's the best way to know that what I'm choosing to believe is not wrong, like ultimately morally, ethically wrong, because the only like true thing is God, is Jesus. So, I can't, say that like this one news source is good because like nobody is good.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to me. Like I'm not afraid, but I'm aware that you're at exactly this moment in time. Your age and kind of this sort of stepping into this particular school, like this is the moment in time where the vast majority of people who grow up believing the Bible and believing that God is truth, this is the moment where they fall away from believing that. It doesn't mean that people turn into monsters. That's not at all what I'm saying. They just say, I've outgrown that. I don't believe it's true anymore. So I'm not asking you like, are you afraid of that? But so much as just think like, have you thought about that? Like, what do you think are some of the things that lead into that?
I think I've definitely thought about it a lot because so many adults tell me like, you're going to go to college and everything's going to change and you're not going to, whatever. But I was just like, if I, root myself in truth, and that's what I'm going to believe. And maybe it's a personality thing. I truly, and I'm not moving to college. I'm living at home. Maybe that's going to play into it. Sure. But I'm a very strong-willed. So if I decide I'm going to do something,
you have some history of like actually,
of actually being really hard-headed,
stubborn. Yeah.
And sometimes it plays to my advantage. Like I'm hoping that, I stay rooted in truth, but. I've always wondered, like, is that really how it is? Because it's not just you go to college. You have to actually make choices to walk away, to depart. Right. So I think, it has a lot more to do with who you are as a person and a lot less to do with where you are because, I've even seen people that don't go away to college. They just stay here in town who have fallen away. Yeah. And it's not where they are. It's truly just what they choose to do and who they are as a person.
Sure. So you're saying that it's not that there's sort of this big bad world out there that corrupts. It's not that simple.
Yes.
Like the big bad world also exists in Roxborough, and it also
exists inside of us.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's just who you like, what you choose to do. It's all choices. Make good choices.
Yeah, make it. Yeah, I think, for the last several months, I've been thinking a lot about the voices that we allow to kind of speak in and inform us. And even just knowing that you're going into journalism and media and thinking about, like, at this point, the tide has really turned, and over 50% of adults get their primary news source through social media rather than kind of like traditional news sources, and I'm sure for young people in particular, it's even more like, and so I just think about this idea of like tuning in 8 hours a day, or however many hours in the day, tuning into some of these little bubbles of thought on social media or different platforms where these are, you can't tune in for hours and hours and hours every day and not be shaped and moved by those things. And so it's funny, like the majority of media is produced, in New York and LA. And so those are little thought bubbles as well.
Right.
And so, you're not getting the full range of, I mean, those are huge city centers, and you are getting a much broader perspective in some sense than maybe you get from Roxborough.
Right.
But you're not getting an ancient perspective. Like it might be kind of broad, but it's not deep in the way that scriptures are. So, but what would you say to this? Okay, I know plenty of people who say the scriptures have some really interesting things, but now, like, because of things that have progressed in our culture, we know that we should kind of put some things in scripture to the side versus, like, how do you know what things in the scriptures are kind of, they belong in ancient cultures versus like what things kind of keep you rooted and grounded right now? Like,
that is such a hard question. Like that is a question from like some theologian or something.
Sure, yeah.
But I don't even know that I have the answer. Yeah. I just know that not like God is not changed.
Okay.
So even though we have changed and times have changed, we have not. I mean, God has not changed whatsoever. Yeah. And so I think like the everlasting things are still everlasting.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of a journey of like discovering, all right, what are the everlasting things?
Yes.
Like, what are the things that have not moved?
And all the stories that like God put in there, and all the, even like the laws that were just for people in the ancient times are in there for a reason.
Sure.
And so, and the reason the Bible has not changed is because God wants us to learn something from that.
Sure.
Even if it does not directly apply to us right now, there's something to be learned.
Yeah.
So that's all I know to say. Like that's such a big question.
It is.
Maybe I should do some. Prompt me to do more research.
I don't think there's a simple answer to that. But I would agree that like there is this big sweep of scripture, and even like for people who have read the scriptures, that most of it is actually like story and poetry, and it's not this clear. Like there are a few lists of like do this, don't do this, and some of them are pretty clearly connected directly to like, this is how you do mealtime in the wilderness in ancient Israel, and okay, it's like, well, that's a cool list.
We're not there right now.
Yeah,
so I guess,
so there are some things that are like that, and then there's other lists that seem to be like, well, that seems like a good list that I should probably take upon myself right now. Like, for example, I think the 10 Commandments are really famous for a reason. Like choosing not to murder other people. That's translated through the ages, But I would say, this journey, like, I'm not afraid to kind of take it apart and kind of look at my faith and say, all right, that the way I understood the scriptures was immature and it's growing. It doesn't mean that God has changed.
Yeah.
It doesn't even mean the scriptures have changed, but I'm growing in my way of understanding them. There's both the need to grow in our understanding and also the need to kind of
trust.
Yeah, to trust and hang on to some everlasting things. So I'm confident that'll be a journey that you're on. Yeah. I do know that you're strong-willed and stubborn, and I'm really similar. There's some things that the Lord has been inviting me to change my mind about for a long time, and I haven't done it. Maybe I didn't trust that what was going to be on the other side would be good. Well, I guess I've been thinking about this journey. A lot of people are kind of stepping into new seasons, whether it's the next school year or whether it's like what you're saying, where you're saying, I'm going to step into an entirely new school. But when you are going into that environment, it's really not the end goal, right? It's kind of a stop along the way. So what are you hoping that the things you get from that experience, where are you hoping you get to and add to?
The dream job.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, what are you hoping to do with it?
I don't know. I think that like journalism there's so many tools that you pick up. It's one of the joys of picking like a humanitarian or not humanitarian, humanities. That's the word. Yeah. Those things those skills last a lot longer than like a STEM job, and that's also why I chose it, because it feels like it's going to last a lot longer. And like even people that work that went to UNC, there's alumni that like they're novel writers now. Yeah. There's alumni that work at Saturday Night Live, like write for them. And it's crazy that like they went to the same school that I went to or I'm going to, and they went on such a different path. Sure. And so I know I want to be a writer. I want to tell stories. I don't know what that's going to look like. Yeah. I am very open to working on paper, working on a magazine. I'd love to be a screenwriter one day. Yeah. That's definitely like a dream job, but I have scaled back that writing goal to let me do something a little more practical for now. I just think I'm not gonna work towards something. People, come on, you don't do this humanities thing and not work towards a goal. But I'm very open to different kinds of writing jobs. That's what I'll say. Okay, that's the goal. So if the STEM route is kind of like, let me look at the market and lock into a particular, like, there's this need in our culture and I'm going to meet that need with this job, but you're saying working in the humanities kind of gives you a longer trajectory where you can sort of continually pull upon your your, I don't even know, your education.
Yeah. So you're saying this kind of sets you up to sort of invest in humanity and in culture and in your community
for a long, long time.
Even if a particular little segment of job market goes away. Like you didn't, I've never thought about the difference between STEM versus the humanities.
I thought about a lot trying to decide what I'm going to do with my life.
Sure, yeah.
Especially since I'm not any good at math, so I chose a writing job. I was like, but I hope I don't need this. You probably don't.
It's hard to say.
It's hard to say right now.
Well, it's really exciting. I'm excited to see what you learn, what you bring to the table. What are some of the things that are stirring up these ideas that you've had for a long time, but then what does it look like in a new context? Yeah. All right, before I let you go, I want to play, this isn't really a game. I just want to see, did you bring a special object today? Yes. And where did it come from?
It came from my purse.
Okay. So I'll sing the song. Usually the song says, what's that thing from your basement? But we'll just say from your purse. It goes like this. What's that thing? What's that thing? What's that thing from your purse?
Like a little cat. Okay.
What'd you bring?
I brought this. Oh, it looks mysterious, doesn't it?
Yes. What is it?
You unscrew it, and it is a retractable straw.
Wow.
I always have this on me because I love straws. Yes. I think anybody's around me long enough, it's like a personality trait.
I didn't know you liked straws.
And people get on me because I used to use a lot of plastic straws.
Does it get ooky inside?
Oh, well, it probably does, but oh no, it's not going to come out. Hold on. Oh. This little guy. What?
Whoa.
A retractable scrubber. Isn't that neat?
Yeah, I mean, I have kids who they drink things with straws, they drink smoothies, and then they get like gunky dried smoothie on the inside, and so that's pretty impressive. So why the straw? Why is it?
People used to always get on. Well, I like straws because I had braces, and I feel like to follow the rules, man. And so they said, don't drink like sodas or sugary stuff.
Without using a straw.
Yeah, so it'll go past and not get on your teeth. And so now I'm just like obsessed with them. And people would get on me because I would have plastic straws and be like, oh, they're bad for the environment.
Well, yeah.
And so they made me
And that
get
one video
these.
with the turtle.
Yeah, I've never seen that video.
Yeah, I've seen that video.
Probably one of him like choking and I don't want to see that. Anyway.
Yeah.
But now I have this and people cannot get mad at me about it.
Well, there we go. They can get mad at you for something else.
That's true.
Thank you for bringing that object from your purse.
Thank you.